Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Denice Scary Show. So first up today, really important, want to talk about the Democrats literally doing something that's unprecedented in the history of America. Liberal progressives in the state of California are keeping a sitting president off the California ballot. They passed a law, SB 27. Again, this is in the California state legislature. They passed SB 27. And we have to demand that a sitting president, President Donald J. Trump, is on the California state ballot. He's not going to be on it for the primary election coming up. This has got to be overturned. I want you to call. This is a call to action to all of you listening, and please share this show out. Share this show out across the state of California. We're putting up for you to see right now the website for you to go to and sign a petition. It's info at victory, at victory.cagop.org. One more time, it's up on the screen. Info at victory.cagop.org. So SB 27, this law that these far left-wing liberal progressives passed so that the President of the United States would not have his name on a California ballot, is wasting your money and my money, taxpayer dollars. It violates the federal Constitution. It violates the California state Constitution. It rigs the election for U.S. Senator Kamala Harris, who's from California. You know, she was our radical left-wing AG, Attorney General here in California. Then she ran to be the U.S. Congresswoman. She's there in Washington, D.C., so it's going to rig the election in favor of her. She's running for president. What it is SB 27. Bottom line is voter suppression. You know, we hear about Democrats talk about voter suppression because why? Because the Republicans ask that when people go to vote, they show some identification. We have to show identification for everything in life, don't we? We always are having to prove who we are, whether we call our credit card company or we show up at all kinds of events. We have to provide identification. It happens every day. But Democrats say, oh, it's voter suppression that Republicans actually want to prevent voter fraud by having everybody show their identification, i.e. a California driver's license, a passport, residency card, whatever. The bottom line is the Democrats in the state of California are violating the United States Constitution and California state constitution by suppressing the Republican vote, the independent vote, and the vote of Democrats who want to vote for Donald J. Trump on the ballot. You've got to demand that SB 27 is overturned now. We cannot let these radical Democrats literally obstruct justice and prevent a sitting president from being on the ballot. This is phenomenal, and it's got to change. If go on the internet, put up their California legislators, ask for a list of their names and phone numbers, call as many as you can, and demand in California State Senate, demand that SB 27 be overturned. Now let's talk about Rashida Tlaib. Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, these are freshman congresswomen that say that there's moral equivalence between terrorist groups like the PLO and Hamas and Hezbollah. And because, as I've said yesterday and the day before, the Israelis back in 2017, before Tlaib and Omar were elected last year to be in the United States Congress, prior to that, Israel passed a law in their Congress, what they call the Knesset, They passed a law barring BDS activists from coming to their country and literally inciting the Arabs, the Muslims, to violence. Israel already is involved in preventing terrorist attacks on practically a daily basis. So, Israel doesn't need people coming from the United States and inciting people to murder Jews in their bed. I'll never forget reading that horrible story about the Foley family, Foley, look it up. And I remember about the children and the little infant whose father had I guess they were taking a nap or going to bed for the night, and they had the little infant there, newborn. And a terrorist had come in through a tunnel from the Gaza Strip into Israel and slit the infant's throat and murdered the father. Slit their throats. Slit the throat of most of the children. I mean, it was a horrible, gruesome story. This is what happens to people who live in Israel. They practically lose half their family to terrorism. And Israel, we have to put it in concept. We have to put it in context. Context. It has to be placed in context. This is why the Israelis in their legislative branch decided we've got to pass a law. And in 2017 they did, saying we can't have these people coming here to our country and inciting the Muslims to commit acts of jihad, which the Quran talks about, kill the infidel. So, Israel passed a law, and so what did Tlaib do when the Israeli government said, you know what, you're barred from coming, sorry, you're not coming to Israel. Of course, then they said the Israelis are racist, they're oppressive, on and on and on and on, it's gone for days. Literally, what Tlaib and Omar should have said is, we respect the rule of law. We respect Israel's rule of law, and yes, we have to obey the law. We understand we have to obey the rule of law here in the United States. If we don't obey the laws here in the United States, we're put in prison. In Israel, you have to obey the rule of law as well. It's a democracy. It's a democratic republic, the only one there in the region. And they should have just said, you know what, we respect Israel's law and not said another word about it. But what did Tlaib do? Tlaib then sent a letter to the Israeli government saying, please, 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 I want to visit my grandmother and relatives I have there in areas occupied and controlled by Palestinians, because really the Arab Muslims don't have a right to any of that land. They don't have a right to a single inch of it because they lost it when they attacked the Israelis in 67. When they attacked the Israelis in 48, 56, and 67, finally in 67, they lost the right to live there because the Israelis won back that land that was originally promised to her to begin with before the Arabs attacked Israel in 48. Originally, that area, Judea and Samaria and what is today Israel, was promised to the Jewish people. It was, and more than that, it was a piece of part of their ancestral homeland. Anyway, the British had promised it to them, the Allies promised it to them, and they reneged on their promises. We don't have time for that, but the bottom line is Tlaib came back and said that, you know what, I want to go see my grandmother, so on humanitarian grounds, will you allow me to enter the country? Israel said, absolutely, on humanitarian grounds, come in. Visit your relatives, visit your grandmother, enjoy yourself. She came back and said no. She wrote him a letter. She says, I won't engage in BDS activity. I just want to visit my relatives. And Israel said, sure, come, visit your relatives. Just, you're not supposed to be involved in inciting a revolution here. But come, visit your relatives. And then she said no and said Israel's oppressive and racist. So I wanted you to hear what the mother, again, Tlaib and Omar support terrorists. They say that, the U.S. government and the U.S. military is its equivalent. Right. Like the U.S. government and military runs around and kills innocent civilians in their beds at night. Right. The United States government does not participate in the random and indiscriminate killing of innocent civilians for a religious or political objective. During war, people get killed. That's true. Americans get killed by fellow Americans in war. It's called friendly fire. Accidents happen. It's called collateral damage. This is what happens very sadly, very tragically. But it's not the policy of the United States government to send the army in to kill innocent civilians. We try to protect innocent civilians from getting killed. Not so by the PLO, Hezbollah, Hamas, these other terrorist groups that Tlaib and Omar support. And so here's a mother from Israel who lost her daughter, her young daughter, I believe she was a teenager, when the restaurant that she was in was blown up. And I thought, this is why the Israeli government passed this law in 2017. Because they want to avoid people like Tlaib and Omar coming into their country and getting people agitated and stirred up, so they blow up restaurants and they kill the children of mothers like you're about ready to listen to. Let's play that clip.
Roth, whose 15-year-old daughter Malki was one of 15 civilians killed in a suicide bombing at a Sbarro restaurant in Jerusalem in 2001, blasted Representative Rashida Tlaib, Democrat from Michigan. Tlaib, who was recently denied entry to the Jewish state for her violently anti-Israel views, said that checkpoints in Judea and Samaria were dehumanizing. Roth shot back that Malki would still be alive if there had been checkpoints to stop the terrorist who killed her daughter. Israel's Attorney General.
So, ladies and gentlemen, over the weekend, just so you know, I heard my phone go off over and over and over again. You know why? Because there were bombs falling in Israel. You know where they were coming from? They were coming from the Islamic resistance movement and another terrorist group that lives in and operates in the Gaza area called the Islamic Jihad. And once again, the IDF means Israeli Defense Forces, that's their army, the Israeli Defense Army, thwarted 3 attempts of Gaza terrorists to come into southern Israel and murder innocent civilians. But they did manage to bomb several areas in southern Israel. I haven't heard that there were any deaths. But again, placing things in context. This again is why, if we put things in context, Israel doesn't need freshman congresswomen who are so radical that they're literally standing in Congress calling for legislation to be passed to boycott the state of Israel and equating Israel with the Nazis who put people in ovens and burned them alive and put people in gas chambers and gassed them to death and lined up naked men, women, and children after stripping them of everything they had, including the gold in their teeth, and shot them literally mercilessly, shot them execution style in cold blood. And so that and after they had dug their own grave and lined them up in front of the grave they had dug for themselves, these innocent Jewish families digging graves for themselves so that the Nazis could then kill each of them and they'd fall over into the grave that they had dug for themselves hours earlier. Those are the Nazis. And Tlaib I don't know, is she just so uneducated? Is she just so ignorant? Obviously Omar is, coming from a country like Somalia. But they've got to be really not too bright to try to equate the Nazis of World War II to Israel that allows anybody, Muslim, Jew, or Christian, to attend their universities and be whoever they want to be because it's a free country. Put it in context. I want you to hear this Hezbollah official. Now this is from memory, the Middle East Media Research Institute. So Israel was bombed over the weekend by terrorists in the Gaza Strip, And now I want you to hear from a Hezbollah government official who also says that Hezbollah, the party of God backed by Iran, is going to attack Israel from the north. So Israel was attacked over this weekend. All weekend long, my phone went off because I have called the Red Alert. It's an app. They were attacked all weekend long, and now the Hezbollah, along with Lebanese anti-Semites, want to attack Israel from the north. Play that, please.
بعد حرب تموز تغيرت المفاهيم. لم تعد استراتيجية عمل المقاومة هي استنزاف العدو الصهيوني وتأخير تقدمه ضمن الأرض اللبنانية. لا نحن رايحين على حرب، ما بده يفوت، نحن بدنا ندخل إلى الجليل، لأن سوريا غيرت استراتيجيتها. طبعا هذا بالتفاهم مع إيران كله وبتخطيط ودعم مشترك من إيران وسوريا. تحول أنه أنا المقاومة إذا الجيش السوري بده يهاجم ويحرر الجولان، معناه المقاومة بدها تكون معه شريك بالهجوم بهذه الحرب. من الطبيعي أنه مش شغلتها أن تأخر تقدم الجيش الإسرائيلي بسهل البقاع، لا بدها تفوت على الجليل وبدها تفوت على سهل الحولي وبدها تفوت على فلسطين 48.
Ladies and gentlemen, again, why did Israel pass BDS legislation last year, in 2017, barring BD activists from coming to their country? Things like this that motivate, that embolden, that encourage people like this Jew-hating terrorist member thinking, wow, you know, Iran has supplied and supported Hezbollah for years and years and years, and we're going to attack Israel. In the meantime, what are the Israelis doing? What are the Jewish people doing in Israel? Well, they're literally fulfilling what God said they would do in a book written by Moses, a Jew. In the book of Genesis, I believe it's chapter 12, verse 3, that talks about God's going to curse people who curse the Jewish people and bless people who have blessed the Jewish people, which Donald Trump certainly has done. And that the Jewish people are going to be a blessing to the whole of mankind. It says in Genesis 12:3, I believe, that the Jewish people will be a blessing to families around the world. And this is what the Jews are doing. The Jewish people, these Israeli doctors, are literally growing bones outside of a person's body, which can then be transplanted into patients, allowing them to walk again and literally participate in sports again. So these are Israeli scientists and doctors who are in the process. They've learned how and developed a way in which bones can be grown inside a laboratory and then transplanted into a patient. It sounds like science fiction, but it's not. And I want you to look at this video from Israel.
These scars show where Donnie nearly lost his leg in a road accident.
In the time of the accident, I didn't thought I will walk normal again. I never thought I'd go back to do sports.
He had major problem of the soft tissue. It was an open fracture, and it didn't heal.
The doctors had to remove almost 4 inches of bone from his leg. It would have ended Donnie's mechanic job and his sporting hobbies. But instead, Dr. Rosen suggested an experimental surgery, one that could regrow Donnie's leg.
After 6 weeks, the bone was connected in both sides.
The experiment had replaced every inch of missing bone with bone grown in a lab, and Donnie, who feared he would never walk again, just completed an Ironman competition. Cases like Donnie's are only a small fraction of the stories of people experiencing bone loss. In most cases, it's due to aging.
The longevity of life creates a huge demand of joint replacement. In the future, and it's not that far, I do believe that we'll overcome the problem of osteoarthritis in the joint by growing our own bone.
And the Israeli company that gave Donnie a new leg wants to meet that demand by creating human tissue in a lab and implanting it in patients.
Nobody believes it's doable. It will sound like science fiction. The ability to grow viable, live tissue outside the body at a reasonable cost will sound like something that wasn't done before.
Dr. Moretsky has spent 10 years making that fiction reality. After proving on patients like Donnie, he is ready to get approval to start clinical trials in the United States. Here's how it works. Doctors take fat cells from the patients in this lab. Stem cells are taken from the fat and grown in the lab until they can be injected into a prepared steel frame in the patient's bone. It's part of a new field of medical science called tissue engineering, growing and manipulating live flesh and bone in laboratory conditions. Even today, labs are learning to make muscles and organs. The biggest limitation is building the nervous system to animate them.
While it's still a little more complicated to regrow an entire human leg, the advances in the field of tissue engineering show that it is not that far off either, and that in the future, it could be possible to regrow just about anything. Ariel Levin-Waldman, I-24 News.
Wasn't that fascinating? That is fascinating. And now they're bringing it to the United States. Reminds me of when they brought drip irrigation to the farmers, to people in agriculture here in California and across the country. And it changed how water was used and really did a tremendous work in terms of conserving water here in the Golden State. Anyway, this is what the Israeli people are doing. Do you ever hear of any Muslim Arabs that are coming up with ways in which to provide these kinds of really groundbreaking surgical procedures and discoveries that can give people their life back, give them a quality of life that they thought they'd never experience again? It's tremendous what the Israelis continue to do in terms of medical breakthroughs, and we need to celebrate that. And we don't need to have people like Talib and Omar going over into Israel and stirring up more hate, more violence, more suicide missions to hurt Jewish people, many of which are working in laboratories trying to come up with cures for cancer. Why not just say a prayer that God bless the Jewish people, bring peace to Jerusalem? I mean, what we need to do is we need to censure Talib and Omar. I think they should have been censored by the United States Congress. That's constitutional. It's a way to admonish these women to get their act together, and they don't need to spew anti-Semitism. Moving on, I want to talk about the economy real quick. Trump haters, I hear this every morning now when I turn on the news while I'm getting ready for my first morning class. Trump haters are hyping that there's going to be a recession. You know, they're hyping up a recession, this propaganda, while the economy is booming. I just looking at the financials, you know, right now, thanks to President Trump, since his election, businesses large and small in the United States of America have created 6.2 million jobs. Businesses large and small, since President Trump was elected, have managed in the last 2.5 years to create over 6.2 million jobs, half of which or more go to women. And Black Americans, Hispanic Americans, Asian Americans, Caucasian Americans, we're all back to work. Employment is at unemployment. The unemployment rate is at a 50-year low. Incredible. Unemployment in America is at a 50-year low. It's like at 3%. The economy is booming. Wages are going up. More manufacturing jobs are being created all the time. The president has got us to a point where we're the net exporter. We're a net exporter of oil and gas again. It's beautiful. I wanted to share with you Brad Parscale that works for the president. You know, he tweeted this out, and he's so right. He says, at MSNBC, they glibly talked about a recession this morning. This was on August 19th. Glibly talked about a recession this morning and even said a recession would be okay. I mean, it's incredible. This is what I hear when I turn on CNN for a minute, because I can only bear it for a minute, or MSNBC for a minute, or ABC or CBS. They are absolutely okay. Where did I read? I read that somebody basically is calling for a recession and saying that he's hoping and praying there'll be a recession so that President Trump won't be elected. But anyway, getting back to Brad Parscale, he said, the liberal media is so deranged by the president that they are now cheering for the economy to tank. Sorry to disappoint Democrats, but the economy has never been stronger. Democrat candidates, you're going to hear this over and over and over again in the days and weeks ahead. The Democrats are constantly raising concerns about a possible recession because this is their strategy. Every chance they get, they're going to call President Trump a racist. And President Trump has done nothing but denounce racism and bigotry and discrimination in this country in every speech he's given since he was elected. I have copies of every speech this president has given, State of the Union messages, many of his press conferences. I have all of those speeches, and there is not a speech where the President of the United States of America hasn't stood against racism, bigotry, and discrimination. And he's proved it. Because you know what? Talk is cheap, but action is everything. The Bible says so. You can say whatever you want, but what you do speaks volumes. And this president has got Black people and Asian people and Hispanic people back to work in this country, and Caucasian people back to work, and women back to work that wanted a job. So his actions speak louder than the words of the Democrats, and that needs to be our message. Our message needs to be to the liberal progressives, whether it's on our Twitter accounts or our Facebook accounts, our Reddit accounts, whatever account you're on, whatever social media platform you're on, YouTube, that needs to be the message. There's not a speech that this president hasn't given that he hasn't condemned racism. And there isn't an activity that the president has engaged in that hasn't promoted jobs and higher wages for every American, regardless of their color or ethnicity or race. That needs to be the message. And I want you to hear Larry Kudlow. He was on a Fox News program, and he basically knows exactly what he's talking about. The man is a huge success. He's been in the financial world and been operating in the financial world his whole adult life. Let's play that clip.
Well, first of all, I don't see a recession at all. Second of all, the Trump pro-growth program, which I believe has been succeeding, lower tax rates, big rollback of regulations, energy opening, trade reform. We're going to stay with that. We believe that's the heart of the free enterprise. We want an incentive-oriented supply-side economy, providing opportunities for everybody across the board. And as your report mentioned, look, we have blowout retail sales. Let me just pause there. Consumers, first of all, they're working. The employment numbers are terrific. Second of all, they're working at much higher wages. Third of all, they're spending. And fourth of all, interestingly, they are saving even while they're spending. That's about as good as it gets. And I notice at the end of the week, a lot of the Wall Street firms have been marking up their economic growth forecast. I think we're in pretty good shape. And I want to just say, we should not be afraid of optimism. I don't know what it is. Everybody wants to talk about pessimism, recession.
Is that why the
There's
president?
no recession on the horizon.
Is that why the?
What's wrong with a little optimism, Dan?
You know me. I'm an optimist. But I wonder if that why the president called some of the banks on that day on Wednesday when it went down. Is your message from the White House now? There is no recession coming, and we are just calling to assure you that we think the economy is on firm footing and no additional measures are needed?
So, ladies and gentlemen, since Americans are back to work and their wages are increasing, let's support the Denice Gary Show. And let's support the people that advertise on the Denice Gary Show. You can make a tax-deductible contribution to my 501c3. It's called the Middle East Initiative. Write a check out to the Middle East Initiative. Send it to P.O. Box 82162, Bakersfield, California, 93380. I need to hear from you. Also, since we're all doing a little bit better this year, let's sign up at Sculpt 365. Sculpt 365 Fitness is the best gym in town. It has everything you need to become your best self. There are personal trainers there. They have state-of-the-art cardio equipment, treadmills, bikes, anything and everything. They've got it at Sculpt 365, and they've got a beautiful facility. Their number 661-679-7116. There are 3 facilities, 2 right here. One in the city of Bakersfield on Brimhall at Callaway. There's another in Oildale on Chester Avenue. There's one up in Tehachapi. These are fabulous facilities. Go there, become a member. And after you've had a great workout, I want you to go to Frugotti's. Let's listen to that great Frugotti's commercial.
I want to tell you about a place I love to go, Frugotti's Italian Restaurant. Very few locations here provide seating outside in front of a fabulous water fountain with an atmosphere that is reminiscent to me of eating outdoors in Venice. This is real Italian food by real Italians. And what makes it even more so is owner Ralph Frugoletti, who nearly a quarter century ago brought a wood fire oven from Milan, Italy to make, like his mother, fresh homemade bread and pizzas. Moreover, Frugotti's Restaurant offers you not only the very best in Southern Italian cooking, even importing the finest ingredients for authentic Italian food, including a fitness menu. After all, Ralph has represented the United States and Italy, competing in the Master Championship Games. He knows all the right food for good fitness, so check out the menu. After today's broadcast, run over to Frugotti's Italian Restaurant and Catering at 600 Coffee Road here in Bakersfield. And after a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday service, stop into Frugotti's for a great lunch. I'll see you there, and tell Mr. Ralph Frugoletti that Denice sent you. Salute. Buon appetito.
And ladies and gentlemen, let's support our former Marine Corps officer, Scott Baker, at Anatase Products. If you're working for Raytheon, if you're working for any of the major DoD contractors like Boeing, Lockheed Martin, United Technologies, Northrop Grumman, General Electrics, you want Anatase Products to be able to build the hardware, the parts and pieces that you need for the DoD, for those DoD contractors. This organization can do everything you need to have done, and they can do so within the context or the environment of a top secret environment. So I want you to support Anatase Products. Give them a call. Give Scott Baker a call. Say thank you for advertising on the Denice Gary Show. The number to Anatase Products, 661, area code 822-6873, 822-6873. All of those aircraft bolts and hardware that's needed, what's needed on satellites, rockets, missiles, spacecraft, whatever is needed, Anatase Products can do it. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to end the show tonight with something that Maria Bartiromo said on her show. She does Sunday morning futures. I love to see the Sunday morning futures before services on a Sunday morning from 7 to 8. And she tweeted out, she was interviewing the CEO, the chairman and CEO of Bank of America. So Bank of America's chairman and CEO, probably a Democrat. Why I don't, maybe he's a Republican. I don't know, but he basically pointed out that Bank of America's customers are spending $1.5 trillion this year. This is what his customers are doing. They're spending $1.5 trillion. This is the Bank of America customer. We're not in a recession, ladies and gentlemen. The Democrats, these radical liberal progressives that are running for president and are going to be running for House seats and Senate seats in the U.S. Congress, that are going to be running for state seats here in the state of California and across the country, they're going to tell you that we're going to have a recession. You tell them we're not going to have a recession. The economy is booming. Now, the economy the growth rate may have slowed down just a bit, may have slowed down just a tad, but it's been running up so fast. I mean, the speed of the growth of our economy has been so fast. It may have slowed down a speck. That's okay. That's just fine. Nevertheless, our economy is booming. And unemployment is at a 50-year low. And again, manufacturing, everything is moving forward and wages are increasing. So, and in addition to that, the president is talking about a tax cut for the middle class, another tax cut. Wow, this is fabulous. Ladies and gentlemen, thank the president. Send him a thank you. And stay tuned for the Denise Gary Show. We'll be back tomorrow. This is Denise signing off.